Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to explore how realistic is a Leman Russ Battle Tank. I've done similar videos exploring the Cadian, Catagen and Def Core of Krieg war gear, so check those out if you find that type of thing interesting. A quick point on the word realistic is that this is a fictional universe 38,000 years away, so we need to be cautious and realistic as to how realistic things will be. For this video I'll partially draw on my experience as a rifleman in the Australian Army. I didn't work with main battle tanks, so I utilised a wide array of infantry weapons, everything from pistols through to 50 cal machine guns and the 84mm Carl Gustav rocket launcher. I'll also of course apply a significant degree of common sense to this exercise. So Leman Russ is a staple armoured workhorse and has been around forever, and any Astra Militarum army collection doesn't look complete without at least a few of them in it. Its blocky appearance is based on a World War I British tank, with side sponsons, wraparound tracks, and what appears to be zero suspension, given the armoured sides go all the way down to the ground. This is where the first problem begins, with the apparent lack of suspension as evidenced by no ability for it to expand and contract without the armour plating hitting the ground. This would make for an extremely uncomfortable ride for the crew. Sure, the Astra Militarum is a tough place, but once Leman Russ goes off-road, the crew and the components within the tank will be rattled to pieces. Or if it went over something particularly large, like a large stone, as the tank fell back on the ground, it do significant damage to the armour plates on the side. Consequently, the tank's speed will be significantly reduced to compensate for this, removing any notion of a Leman Russ tank speeding around the battlefield. Also, its low armour plating would probably also lead to the vehicle getting stuck in the mud or unstable ground. However, one aspect that does make sense is the front slope treads that run quite high. Like the World War I British tanks, this would allow it to climb out of deep trench systems, with the only problem being the long barrel of the main weapon, which probably would get stuck. However, maybe the commander of the vehicle just simply rotates the turret backwards or sidewards. Not very tactically sound, but at least the thing won't get stuck. Too bad for the front sponson las cannon, as it probably get trapped anyway. Right now to the side sponsons, again taken from World War I tanks. Side sponsons haven't appeared in tanks really since then. The idea of them is fine, and would actually mean the tank has got better fields of view and fire, given you've got gunners and their weapons close to the ground level and able to keep at bay any infantry moving up onto the vehicle. My problem lies, however, is where the gunners would actually sit. This ties into a wider point, which is how the hell does all the crew fit into this vehicle? The conservative estimate would assume 7 crewmen, being the driver, front gunner, 2 sponson side gunners, a commander, loader and main weapon gunner. Then of course ammunition for all weapons, radios, the actual engine, the weapons themselves and the thickness of the armour plates. I've heard it suggested that maybe the side sponsons are crewed by servitors. However, the novel Still Tread speaks of side and front sponson gunners, which disproves this illustration of the crew here. Also, an issue with the sponson weapons is a lack of vision ports or lenses. I know it's a plastic miniature, but how will the gunners see their targets or scan their arcs of responsibility? At least the heavy bolters are modelled with what appears to be a targeting lens, but that would mean a very narrow field of view. And what would be more realistic is to have a vision lens across the top of the sponson, giving the gunners great situational awareness. Also on the side of the vehicle appears to be a crew hatch, either being emergency exit or for loading ammunition and equipment. Few modern tanks have got hatches these days other than those on top of the vehicle, while some older vehicles had them underneath as an escape hatch. However, they're rarely used these days as it introduces a weak point in the armour. The prevalence of powerful landmines or IEDs has stopped those underneath, whilst to have one on the side of the vehicle wouldn't be advisable given it introduces a vulnerable point in the armour's protection. Now the front sponson weapon also doesn't have lenses or viewing ports, and what is weird is the apparent hatch over the top of where the weapon would actually be. Being strict from a pure physics point of view, it would open onto the body of the las cannon and also maybe the swivel mechanics, so maybe helpful from a maintenance point of view. Now the driver at least has a wide vision lens depicted by an open square with a sun and rain cover. Not being a ballistics expert, however, such a large piece of glass surely would be likely vulnerable to enemy fire, but at least the driver does have a good field of view. Although again, from a simple physics point of view, given how steep the front armour actually is facing, the driver will probably be sat quite far back and like looking through a small window. Perhaps maybe though they've got a sophisticated set of mirror prisms or cameras to aid vision. Of course, however, the driver would actually be mostly relying upon the tank commander to provide directions as to where to steer, given he's got an elevated position which provides better fields of view. Okay, now to the turret. Firstly, it's got storage bins, which is something seen in modern and historical vehicles. As I said, I never worked with battle tanks in the army, however perhaps this is where maintenance equipment is kept for easy access, given it's probably quite heavy duty, given you're working with a 60-ton vehicle. Next, the wraparound vision blocks on the commander's hatch are fine, providing it would be a decent field of view for 360 awareness. And at the front is probably what's meant to be a large vision block that will house things like aiming devices, night vision, periscopes and rangefinders. It's modelled as quite a large thing, and that's fine, with its wide field of view being great for spotting targets. And given it's at the top of the highest point of the vehicle can fire without too much of it exposed from behind cover. Now, however, what is a problem is the position of the commander's hatch and the main weapon. Using basic physics, if we compare the caliber of the barrel of Leman Russ to a miniature, it's as wide as a Cadian with a helmet on. So let's agree about 25 centimeters wide. The US main battle tank, the Abrams, for reference, has a barrel weapon of 120 millimeters or 120 centimeters. So roughly half of that of a Leman Russ. This is great, as it means the enemy of mankind have been transformed into paste when fired upon by a Leman Russ Battle Tank. But from a physical point of view, the turret is way too small to command such a big caliber weapon. The barrel of the weapon is only part of its makeup, with the breech housing, breech block, loading tray and racks, and shell discard mechanisms. Roughly speaking, about 60% of the exposed barrel's length is then again within the turret itself, which means for Patreon Tank Commander Mitchell here, he either has no torso or is sat on top of the breech block. Also, where does the gunner and loader sit? The turret ring of this would need to be absolutely massive to support a 25 centimeter cannon. And for perspective, World War II battleships, main cannons were between 25 and 40 centimeters. Granted, they are housed either in pairs or triples. They generate huge amounts of energy to propel their 500 kilo rounds of ammunition. This amount of energy will probably flip over our teeny-weeny tank, but it's a safe assumption to say that Leman Russes will be using ammunition types similar to that of today's main battle tanks, with the cartridge case simply being a cover of a shaped projectile common of armor-piercing rounds or a high-explosive warhead. This, of course, would mean it would be significantly lighter and producing way less recoil than a World War II naval gun. But even then, a 25 centimeter projectile would probably weigh about 50 kilos or 110 pounds. Now, manoeuvring something that heavy around a cramped environment would be exceptionally hard work and require the strength of a catechin. However, forget that, given they'll be too big to fit into the actual tank itself. It would be very slow to reload the weapon, jeopardizing second round firing if the first shot was unsuccessful in hitting the target. Maybe there is a hoist to make it more manageable, but that of course requires space and would also make it very slow. Basically speaking, the geometry of Leman Russ is all wrong, with a comically large barrel, ridiculously small turret, and absolutely no ability for suspension to operate. The entire thing is way too small to accommodate the 7 crew, along with an engine, the turret ring, and ammunition for 4 large caliber weapons. Unless it's crewed by ratlings, it's impossible for them all to fit into such a small vehicle. But if we do cast our eyes across the wider 40k model range, there are plenty of other vehicles where the geometry is all wrong. Take, for example, the Space Marine Rhino. How the hell would 10 Space Marines fit into that tiny thing? Look, I get it. Clearly the tabletop miniatures are a representation of a fictional universe, and to make it work, some of the model scale needs to be out of canter with the other models. Related to this and supporting the point is that the range of the las gun on the tabletop game is 24 inches, whilst a las pistol is 12 inches. This is completely wrong, given a modern day assault rifle has a range of about 300 meters and a pistol about 15. Sure, las gun technology will be a bit different, but if we use the scale of a rifle to a pistol on a las gun to las pistol, the 24 inch range of a las gun would mean the las pistol's range would be only 1 inch. So clearly not everything in the glorious board game that is Warhammer 40,000 is realistic. Of course, hopefully a bit of fun poking holes in the realism of the Leman Russ Battle Tank plastic miniature. As said at the start, this is a fictional universe with the plastic miniatures representing those type of things. So a significant degree of realism must be applied when evaluating anything through a realism lens. The Leman Russ kits is a really old kit, probably about 20 years now, so representing a different approach to miniature design. Maybe a discussion for another video is the Rogel Dawn. That model to me looks a bit more realistic overall. So yep, what do you think of all this? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to support this video and support me, you can do so with a like, comment, or by subscribing, joining my Patreon Platoon, or simply watching any of my other YouTube videos. A massive thanks to my current supporters. So keep your bayonet sharp, let's go Nord. Faith from the Emperor strong. Patreon Platoon, sound off. Tank Commander Glenn. Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten. Tank Commander Mitchell. Lieutenant Burke Nielsen. Colour Sergeant DuPont. Sergeant Adal. The Colonel Merrill. Chosen Man Smith. Veteran Gibson. Hall. Lundeen. Guardsman Beard. Coquelin. Flint. Hills, Malik, Nitin, Nguyen, Tom, Tompkin. Conscript England, Evan Gyan, Gilliam, Goodwin, King.